is Caz. It's not a pen name. It's Caz Redpath, I should say, because I guess you look up the full name. It's not a pen name. It is my actual name because I'm not very creative. So I just cheated and used my own name. Um, I wrote a book called Read My Rights, which is part of a series that is called the Rosehaven series. The book is about a guy named Elijah who is sort of haunted by his father's murder that happened 15 years prior to the book. He struggles a lot with anxiety. In his adulthood, he's become a police officer as a way of trying to make himself almost feel better. And he can't change the past, but can he make it better for people in the future? After a bad day at work, he pulls somebody over who just so happens to be our female main character and ends up having a bit of a go at her for having her tail light out because he's in a bad mood. So the two of them don't really get off to a great start. She's just come to the town of Rosehaven to escape sort of an abusive relationship with her son. So the two of them are trying to have a fresh start, and they bump into a very grumpy Elijah on their first day.
I love the grumpy sunshine trope though, so it's a very sounds like a really good book, and I'm like, it's on my next to read at the moment.
Honestly, I basically just wrote things that I like. Like Grumpy Time Sunshine is my favorite. Found Family is my favorite. It's really all about, it's all for me. They just wrote the stuff that I like, really.
That's the best way to write your books too. What would you like to read?
Definitely. It's like, oh, I would pick this up. That's cool. If no one else does, at least I'll read it.
So you've got um a new book coming out in October to Till
Yes.
Death Parts Us. What was your inspiration for that book?
So that one is technically the second in the series, although it's a prequel. So it goes back to when the parents met, so the parents of Elijah and his siblings. Um, and he was working as a criminal defense lawyer, the main character James, and he meets the mum Lucy because her dad's been accused of murder. And it's a whole sort of love story mixed with a whodunit type of thing. And I think with all of the Rosehaven series, they're all I don't know how to phrase it in a nice way. They're all almost inspired by, I was going to say bad things that happened to me. I've not had my dad's not murdered anybody. That's not where I'm going with that. But um, like Elijah has anxiety. James struggles with his sort of work-life balance. There's always a little bit of something that have been through that puts through them, and then the rest of the story just sort of builds around my own negativity that I put into it.
How long have you been writing, or when did you start?
Um, Officially, properly, I started in February. That's when I started writing Read My Rights. I've sort of always written little things my whole life, but I've never finished a book. I've never finished probably more than a short story. So properly writing was in February this year.
It's amazing how quickly you've actually going through your series as well. I guess you sort of have the plot sort of worked out since if it's the book two is the Elijah's parent, so it's sort of filling in gaps and letting us explore your characters a bit more through your books as well.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit strange in the fact that my brain constantly is thinking of things. So although I didn't start physically writing anything until February, I'm sure this was all in my mind in some weird way or the other until that point. And I think when I actually get to sit down, my hands just go. Um, I can't believe how quickly read my rights. I did about 20,000 words in 2 days. I was
Wow.
just gone. Um, but I'm always thinking about it. I'm always thinking about the plot and how to expand. And I think it just helps then when you sit down and it's already all in your head.
So what was your approach to world and character building then with your series?
I'm what they call, I think the official term is a pantser. So
Yeah.
for the when you just make it up as you go along. I wish I have a whiteboard in my office, and it's all that's written on it right now is James and Lucy. That's all that's written. I've written nothing else helpful towards that book. I've just written their names down. Um, I think as I'm going along, if I think of something, I put it on like my notes page for when I get to it. I write in order. I don't like jump around. But I'll go and write at the bottom this scene, write this later on, which helps with sort of the world building. I sort of knew where I was going with each book before I even started writing Read by Rights. It was originally supposed to be three, it's now five. I got a bit excited and I added two books in. um, and so I sort of know roughly where they're all going, so then it and how they all tie in together. Although they're interconnected standalones, they can be read alone. They have like a nice connection that goes all the way through. Um, but yeah, I wish I could say I was a planner, but I'm not. I'm just let's see what happens today.
May as well. You can be flexible in your as your characters sort of move the story. You can sort of go with the flow, not sort of like, no, actually, this is the way that I wanted the story.
Yeah, they dictate. I don't dictate anything. It's all them.
Which of your characters do you relate to the most and why?
It's hard because I think the parts that I relate to, I haven't officially written yet. I'd probably say Lucas, which is slightly egotistical because he is the character that lots of people like, and I swear I'm not saying it just because everybody likes him. Um, but he very much hides his sort of feelings with humor. Like he likes to make everyone laugh even when he's not feeling like that himself, and I think I do that a lot. It's a very British thing to do too. He's not British, but I am. Um, so I think probably him because I think he's very aware of how everybody is feeling around him, especially dealing with grief or anxiety or different things. So he tries to bring that lightheartedness in. Um, and it just so happens he's everyone's favorite.
It's such a great personality to have too, both in a character and in real life too. It's like you're gonna everyone likes you as well, which is always a little bit.
I don't know if we share that part.
How important was professional editing to your book's development, or have you had an editor?
So it ended up being very important. I wasn't going to. I was like, no, I could do this myself. I'll save all that money. And then I had an editor reach out and they did like a free alpha read. Um, and so they did that and I just found it so helpful. And I found their feedback so good of plot changes, developmental edits, that I ended up then getting her to do the complete full edit of Read My Rights. And I honestly don't think it would have done as well as it's done without a proper editor. Because although I can come up with the stories and the ideas, it doesn't mean that my punctuation and my spelling is always top notch. Especially since it's set in America, and I think I definitely made up some slang that she called me out for. She was like, "What is this? Why would a police officer do this? Are you okay?" Um, so I think it was vital for me, and I would always do it now. Find an editor. It's a cost. It's quite expensive for even if you go for somebody who's new to it, but it's expensive because the amount of work they have to put in to it.
How has writing and publishing a book changed the way you see yourself?
I think I surprised myself a lot with writing. I I like to challenge myself, and I basically announced Read My Rights when I'd written about three chapters. And just on my Bookstagram, just went, you know what, guys, I've written a book. No, I hadn't. That was a lie. Um, and I'd set a deadline date that I was going to publish. Um, and I was just actually quite impressed that I got it done in time. And I think I I don't think I actually thought I was that good at writing. And I'm not saying I'm the best writer in the world, but when I then sat and read it at the end, I thought, well, it's not half bad. I've done all right here. I'd give it at least a three. Um,
will enjoy it too.
And I think it's nice to write something that you would enjoy yourself, um, and a book that if I'd read it from a different author would have really helped me. Um, so I think it's just made me a bit more confident. I seem to keep putting myself in situations because of it, like this right now. Um, I have to just force myself out into the world. So I think it's definitely made me more confident as a person.
What is the most valuable piece of advice you've been given about your writing?
Um, I think it's mostly people telling me to shut up when I say, "Oh, I should give in, give up." Um, I definitely struggle with being objective about my own stuff, especially in the beginning of writing. I end up sending chapters to people because I'm like, "Shall I pack this in?" And they're like, "Just shush, just keep going, you're fine." Um, so I think it's that you are your own worst enemy when it comes to writing, and just I don't know if I would give the advice shut up to everyone else, but maybe I would.
Would that be the advice you would give to a
Yeah,
writer starting on their
let's
first
shut
book?
up.
Ignore your inner thoughts.
Just shush and just write, okay? No, that would not. I would probably give something a bit better than that than just. But it's very good advice to me to shut up. That's very good advice to me.
What would you give it? What advice would you give to someone who was writing their first book?
I think I would give the advice of write the book first, think of everything else later. Um, I was my own biggest enemy because I'd promised that all this was happening and I had no idea what I was doing. I not only did I pants the book, I pants the whole self-publishing process. I didn't research anything. I just would, you know what? In 4 months' time, you guys are going to get a book. Um, so I think just get the story, at least a first draft done, and then start to look at your options, whether you traditional or whether you self. Um, don't put the pressure on too early.
That's actually really good advice as well. And always helpful to know what you're sort of going to end up getting yourself into, but
I,
first,
I like I like that. Just don't do what I did. Basically, just do anything else but what
learn,
I did.
learn from my stress that I did to myself. Are there any books or authors that inspired you to write?
I always find this question hard. I really like dystopian novels, which is not what I write myself because I don't think I've got the brain power to come up with that. But I love like Suzanne Collins. I can't remember the writer of the Divergent series, but her and the Maze Runner, James Dashner. Um, I love all those sort of books. The sort of there is love in those books, but there's also a suspense element to it, and I like writing romance, and I like killing people off, so I merge the two.
What makes your book more interesting?
It does. There will be a point where I'll have to stop killing people because everyone's going to be like, we know in chapter 3 she has a habit of killing someone's family member.
Maybe that will still maybe they'll still pick up the book to see if that happens though. So
Yeah, but like, this time, what they're going to die of this time?
who has been the biggest supporter of your writing?
It's been a mixture. I think um, one of my Bookstagram friends, Alicia, she's been the one who tells me to shut up, and so is my other Bookstagram friend, Nay. They are the shut up and write people in my life. Um, I think in general the community is very supportive. When I announced it, those people were commenting, and those people then became ARC readers and street teams, and even now it's out, they're constantly sharing. For some reason they're on the street team for book 2, so who knows? But it's nice that people took a chance, even though they've never read anything I've ever done. Um, I think the community as a whole is very good at picking up indie authors. Um, and then who was I going to say? Kate and Lola, who are two other authors. Um, I basically just bothered them until they helped me, and they helped me, and yeah, it's nice to have other people, other indie authors who have self-published before you to look up to and go, well, they're doing this. Um, so I'm gonna basically just steal what they've done and hope that I have half the success that they have.
They've laid the roadmap for me. I just need to follow it. The
Thank
best.
you for doing the work for this pantser. Thank you.
My final question might be a little bit mean. If you had to describe yourself in 3 words, what would those be?
Oh, easy. It's like an interview when they go, "What's your three biggest weaknesses and strengths?" Um, I think I'm probably sarcastic. I think that comes across. Um, I like to describe myself as tenacious because I think it's the borderline of a compliment and an insult. It could be taken either way. I'm either tenacious in a good way, or I'm tenacious and you just read my books and I give you a both. And I'd probably say I'm ambitious. Found three.
Gosh,
I don't know if they were good or not, but I found them.
they're good. Everyone needs a little bit of tenacity and ambition in their lives too.